Hey, what's up, CAUSENETIC family?
Welcome to the CAUSENETIC podcast.
CAUSENETIC means being a person or thing that gives rise to a phenomenon that is dynamic or energizing.
We're tackling topics and telling the truth.
And I'm Keith Benson.
And I'm Rodrigo Ross.
Don't worry about her. Hey, what you should worry about is my man here today, the author of Hard Choice Habits.
That's my drum roll.
I know, but you're shaking the camera.
I tried. Okay, I tried.
Everybody's going like this.
They thought something was wrong. Like, what's happening? Is it an emergency?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We got Blake Carleton here, the author of Hard Choice Habit. Blake, thanks for being with us today, man. You've been able to write a phenomenal book that the world really needs to know about. And so we want to share with our guests because I think we're kind of international now, right?
We've
had a few more people listen to us, have an opportunity to go over to the World Council with the YMCA over in Denmark, and just had a phenomenal time over there. So we're hoping some of our listeners from Argentina, Peru, South Africa are going to hear about the great things that you're doing, man. So tell us a little bit about the premise of your book.
Yeah, man. Hey, thank you guys so much. It's funny, I saw you guys doing all those recordings from across the pond, and I thought, man, I should have got in before they went over there. Now the bar is real high. I said, man, this is going to be a step back for them. So they're going from varsity to JV for sure. But so really my story starts with finding out I was become a father. My wife and I struggled with infertility, and so we had to go the IVF route, right? And so one of the best things about IVF, other than hopefully having some healthy babies at the end of the process, is they give you this picture of your child that's 5 days old. So most people get a picture of their kid, 10 weeks, first ultrasound, 5 days. It's just this clump of cells, and we put that thing on our refrigerator like proud parents. And I walked by that picture over and over and just got more afraid, more scared, more nervous, just thinking there's gonna be this little person running around and I'm gonna have to help them do something
with them.
Right.
Super nervous. And so after a long back and forth with my wife, we really said, what's the one thing we want to instill in our kids is the ability to make good decisions. And we thought, man, if they could just make good decisions, whether it's at school with their friends, at their job, in their family, that the most successful people we knew, they really made good decisions on a consistent basis. Right. And then I started researching. I thought, literally, I Google searched decision making for dummies. I thought there's got to be a book out there.
One of those yellow and black.
Yes.
The big phone book looking things.
It's got
Did it say Rodrigo up there?
What?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Blake. I'm sorry.
Rodrigo.
You see why we argue, Blake, right?
I know.
The jealousy is so deep. It's so
just
deep.
For the listeners to know, Keith got the name of my book wrong early before you hit record, and now Rodrigo had to correct him and help him out. So I'm just saying,
So who got the first edition copy of Hard Choice for Dummies? Okay,
so all I know is that the listeners who hear this, they hear it correctly. So I'm not sure what you're talking about, but go ahead.
Two of us are validating the original story, Blake.
Plausible deniability. If it didn't get recorded, it didn't happen. So I started researching decision making, and it was a lot of what you would think of when most people think of decision-making, strategic decision-making, where you have a long time horizon, where there's a lot of space to talk about and debate. All right, what about this? What about that? That wasn't what I wanted. And when I did more and more research about decisions, the average person makes 35,000 decisions a day. That's so you think about, and many of them are unconscious, right? You're just going along. Yeah. And so there's 3 types of decisions. There's reactive, where somebody, something happens and you catch a ball, you breathe. There's strategic, which everybody knows about. Well, the ones I wanted to work on were reactive, because I got it wrong. There's reflexive. That's the automatic. It's just a reflex. Reactive is the one where there's a stimuli. Your alarm clock goes off. Do you get up or not? Somebody says something on a podcast that might, make you a little angry. Do you go off, or do you just let it slide a little bit, right? And so as I started researching and thinking, like, it really, I was trying to create a life hack that could help my kids. And then I started talking to other people. They were like, man, I wish I had something like this. And so really, for me, what it boils down to is every decision you come across can be kind of reduced down to an easy choice or a hard choice.
Yep. Yeah.
And the more hard choices you make, the better your outcomes. It could be family, it could be money, it could be health, career, and just trying to get the message out there for people to kind of reframe how they see decision making.
That, particularly when you are trying to move up, right? The corporate ladder, and everyone is like, oh, I want to be a fill in the blank, whatever the top of that ladder is, CEO, COO, executive director, whatever the case may be. People always want to be those things, but I really do think people underestimate the need for you to build your skill set around hard choice.
Yeah.
Like, there are some things that you have to do, some predicaments that you will find yourself in, some things that you can't do when you begin to be in these places. And so that's why I'm excited for this book, to really help people get a realistic grasp of what it means, right? To be able to make hard choices and to make that a habit, and then to infuse that into your culture.
Yeah, because you're talking about, you said 35,000 decisions
per day.
And
20,000 of those for me is what shoes to wear.
And the depth of, yeah, I ain't gonna go there. But 35,000 decisions, and that depends on, especially talking about people growing up in the organization, and the higher that level gets, the tougher those decisions are.
Yes.
And then those decisions that you're talking about, especially as a leader, they're for others.
And they affect more people.
Right.
Yeah.
The impact is on so many other people. And it's not just me and my personal stuff, me as an individual making those decisions. It's about the lives of hundreds. I think of a Kurt Hazelbaker, who we have a couple thousand folks that's working right now, in the Y during the summertime here.
Yeah.
Like, his decision making is based on so many other people. And so,
and there are definitely hard choices that he has to make.
Right.
Knowing that whatever that decision is, there could be collateral damage, right? Like, there are definitely
there will be some collateral damage somewhere.
People are going to feel it either way. Because there's no such thing, I don't believe, and you tell me any different, but there's no such thing as that perfect decision that everybody is going to benefit from.
Right.
Well, and Rodrigo, you said it and I think the point of the book and the research and some of the work I've done, so you talk about people that want to climb that ladder and they get to that place. I really firmly believe that what happens when people fail at that level, it goes poorly for them and they're then demoted or go in a bad path. What's happened is they haven't trained their decision muscle. And so what happens is they get to that, they're trying to make this decision. It'd be like just showing up and running a marathon. Like,
can't do it.
You can't do it. And so it's dangerous. You're going to hurt yourself and others. And so what I try to remind people when I talk is to say, listen, if you're unhappy with where you are in your career, where you are in your relationships, where you are in your health, I think it's so easy in this Instagram, Twitter, Facebook world to get down on yourself, to see these people that have all these results and think, oh, it's easy. They're looking for the easy path. Hey, you have to train to then be ready to make that hard decision. So it's going to be an accumulation of small, hard decisions that are going to prime you and get you ready so that, man, when it comes time to make that decision like Kurt has to make, when it comes time for you to, hey, not like for me, it's ordering the salad, not the French fries, right? Like, hey, that's tough. And that's tough. But I find that that decision becomes easier if I've done the other things throughout the day, woken up early, done my meditations, gotten on the treadmill. By the time I get to the fries decision, I'm like, you know what? I've done all these other hard things today. This is just one more of those. And if you start to normalize that concept, then it really becomes, you're building that muscle. It's like training any other piece of your body, I think.
And did you just give people the permission to work out and then eat fries later? Is that?
No. I say that I'd work out and then choose the salad. So I
work out and eat cupcakes.
I work out. I'm eating the fries.
I'm eating the fries. I worked out. Oh, I'm getting the fries. You heard?
Matter of fact, it's Friday. We're recording this right now. I got a strawberry cupcake in mine right now. And I did my Pilates this morning.
Pilates?
Yeah, I did Pilates. I sure did. I'm paying the price for it.
Yeah,
right
I
now.
know you are. You look a little sick today.
I'm going to get my cupcake to relieve me a little bit.
You're going to eat it real slow.
That's
too,
the decision that I'm going to make today.
The hard choice.
That's not a hard choice. That's the opposite. That's the easy choice. Now the kale smoothie would be the hard choice, but the cupcake, that's the easy one.
Then I'm not in the hard choice space today because I think I'm kind of with you.
But here's the other thing I think we have to remember. You're never going to make all the hard choices, right?
Right.
And so that's okay too. What I try to talk to people about, whether it be organizations at the organizational level, is let's just be intentional about, okay, easy, hard. We just don't have the fortitude today to pick the hard thing. We're going to have to just take this easier path. Just be mindful that if you continue to say that to yourself, you're going to get outcomes you're no longer happy with.
Yeah. I was going to ask that question. So, Blake, do you think that most people are averse or they let this hard choice muscle atrophy because somehow they're not really sure if they're resourceful enough to live through whatever the repercussions are of the hard choice, right? So they just kept making an easy one and kept making an easy one. And then you get so far gone, you can't remember the last time you made a hard choice. And you really begin to question, can I even make hard choices and live to tell about it?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think you framed it perfectly. It's just like muscle atrophy, right? You get to that point where you've coasted along. And unfortunately, in our society, it's great, but things are easy. If you go back 100 years ago, nobody had cupcakes by your desk. You had to pick the grain, you had to do all that hard stuff to even get a little bit of reward that might, and then it's like, is that even worth it? Right. And so not only I just think our society, and I don't mean it as a bad thing, I think a lot of the technology and advances in technology are great and have done a lot of amazing things. I do think everything's an equation. And so where it's easy and for productivity, the fact that the three of us can be on this from, thousands of miles away is awesome.
Yeah.
The downside of that might be I eat way more cupcakes because that's just easy, right? And so I definitely think the other thing you said, Rodrigo, so at the base of the core of my kind of concept is easy or hard, but then I have three other rules. It's 2 or 4. So things either happen to you or for you. You can decide, right? 2 or 4.
That's a good one.
Right?
I like it. I like it.
There's another one, it's and or but. So we all know those but people. You bring up an idea, but we've done that, but we've done that. They focus on the obstacle, not the opportunity.
Yeah.
So you have a victim mentality that stuff happens to you. The next rule is about how you perceive obstacles. But the third one, I think, is something you touched on, Rodrigo, is fear or forward.
Yeah.
And people they get in that habit of the easy choice to stay safe. And I understand it feels safe. Even if it's bad, it, right? There's a comfort level in, okay, I can look around and it may not be good, but at least I know it's not going to get any worse or I understand what I'm dealing with. So many times I think people struggle to make that forward decision.
Yeah.
And they are in that place. And I think as you guys, just the title of your podcast, that phenomenon that creates things that are going to be dynamic or energizing. I think anybody you have on here, all the people, they've all had to make a series of hard decisions. And so often we get on and listen and think, oh, I could never do that. Well, you didn't see all the work they put in to get there. Right. Whether it be Suzanne McCormick or Paul McIntyre, some of these folks that you've had on recently, and that's another, I think, unfortunate side effect of the technology. Everybody thinks, oh, it's just so easy.
And it just happened.
It just happened.
Yes, it just happened.
So,
so we have a lot of leaders that listen to the podcast, and we know that a demographic of ours is kind of the millennial group out there. And they want to get to that next level, whether that's a VP, whether that's SVP, whether that's CEO. But what would you say to them in their decision-making process that they need to really think about as they are growing in their particular roles now?
So it's so funny because I was just talking to a colleague of mine in that same kind of age bracket. I said, listen, you need to go to your supervisor. If you feel like you're kind of getting stuck in that next level or where you are, find out what's holding you back. Maybe it's you don't follow through. Maybe it's you're rude. You're a little bit abrasive sometimes to your colleagues. Maybe it's you don't have difficult conversation. Maybe it's you don't have difficult conversations with your, the people that report you, whatever it is. And understand that's the piece of your professional career. All right, what are 3 things, the hard choices you can do to start to change that? Just that specific. But I always tell people, imagine if you were to make 7 intentionally harder decisions per day. It's like 250 per week. It's 2,500 harder decisions per year. My argument continues to be, if you pick 2 hard things directly related to your feedback of what you need to work on, and you pick 5 other hard things that have nothing to do with that. It might be wake up early. It might be eat the salad. It might be go for a walk. Whatever's going to be hard for you, it still is beneficial in your ultimate goal because you're getting used to those hard things.
Yeah.
And so it takes that, you're just working out that muscle in a different way. So people see this disconnection between, well, I have to work specifically on, not being rude to my colleagues. Yes, that's true. But you also need to just strengthen that hard choice muscle. And what does that look like? It's going to make you better across other areas. Maybe it's you stop looking at social media at 9:00. Maybe it's like, hey, I'm going to send, I do some executive coaching. And one of the things a gentleman needed to work on was gratitude. He wasn't, the people that he worked for or that worked with him felt like he was always just out for himself. And he wasn't. He said he wasn't. And I believe him.
Yeah.
But I said, listen, what if you pick one person on Tuesday and Friday in your family and just write them an email about gratitude, not work related, just to flex that.
I expect my email from you, Keith.
But the point wasn't about the feel good. It was flexing that hard muscle, right? It was because he had to remember to do it. He had to think of the person, right? So there were also hard decisions in that kind of pinch point of push send on the email. I got to think what I'm going to say. And after he got through the easy people, it was people like, well, I have this friend that I hadn't talked to and I really don't like, but I want to mend that bridge. Yeah. That's really hard. And so I would challenge people that are trying to, whether it's move up in their career, improve their family life. Yes, think about the specific hard things you need to do to attain that goal, but use the connectivity between other hard things as practice as you move forward.
So what would you say? So you talked about an individual just then, like I'm thinking of the CEO or the individuals that do have a broad areas of responsibility. How do you shift that culture there? Yeah. So individually, fine, I heard you, but how do we shift the bunch of people, right? Yeah. How do you do that?
Well, that's a great question. So some of the stuff I've seen done that is, one, the leader has to then model that behavior.
Absolutely.
So as decisions come, he or she's not just saying things like, well, what's the financial ramifications? What's the strategy? How are our partners going to respond? And he or she may still ask all those questions, but then the core last question should be, man, is this like, what's the hard thing? Is this easy or is it hard? Right. And use that as that last filter. And like I said earlier, it might not be every time you can do the hard thing, and that's okay. One of my favorite stories in the book is Andy Grove, who built Intel. In 1968, they did like $2,500 in total net revenue. That was it. That's all they made.
Wow.
2018, they made $70 billion. Right. So in close to 60 years, they went from $2,500 profit in 68 to $70 billion. So in the late 80s, there was a change in their business going from like microprocessing to microchips. And there was a big decision because if they could stay comfortable where they were, but probably that was going to be a road that ended poorly.
Yep.
But if they chose this other path, they'd have to fire almost half their employees because they were now obsolete. And so so they debated back and forth with the board for hours. And they're at a break, and Andy Grove was with his co-founder. And here's the question they asked. If we sold our company today, what would the new person do? And the answer was, well, they'd shut down the microprocessing and move into chips. That was it. They knew that. So what did they do? They did the hard thing. They went back in. And that, after hours and tons of research on what we should do as a company, the decision came down to, let me reframe that.
Yeah.
All right, if we sell and somebody comes, what are they going to do? They're like, well, it's easy. They're going to just, and they said, all right, well, then that's what we have to do, even though now it's going to take all these hard things. So, Keith, to your point, as a leadership team, I would always try to reframe big decisions in easy or hard. And the other thing I would also start to do is, I have these rules, but depending on where your culture is, come up with your own rule that you can then use amongst yourself, like a shared language.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine, if the team is really struggling with just being overworked, which I think a lot of YMCAs are dealing with now.
Yeah.
Instead of saying like, maybe there's a rule that's like don't or can't. Do we don't do something, or is it something we can't do? Let's stop saying we can't do that, because that's negative. Let's make an intentional point about saying we don't do that. And that's hard, especially for wives. We all want to do everything.
Right. We want to do everything.
We want to do everything. So we end up with these one-off small partnerships that take a lot of effort.
Yes.
But we probably shouldn't do it. We hate saying that. We think, we can't say that. Well,
golf tournaments. Oh,
right.
all
of it.
Yeah.
Galas, right? Art auctions, whatever you all know.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we don't do that. Now that's hard. That's a hard thing to say. But that's the rule we've committed to. It's can't or don't. Which is it? Let's go don't. And we're not going to do the golf tournament. Not because we can't, because we don't. And here's why we don't. So, I think changing the framework and then coming up with your own individual binary rules is something I would suggest.
I love that.
And you're talking about hard decisions. I remember being in the Charlotte while we were in a meeting, and we were talking about healthy lifestyles, and where this commitment that we were going to go to for the association. And they said you couldn't have chocolate chip cookies anymore. Boy, the room
Hold on.
Wait, ho. Hey,
wait a minute.
You tell me I can't have me a soft, juicy chocolate chip cookie? Hold up now. I just did Pilates this morning. I need me a chocolate chip cookie.
Pilates? He must be hungry. Like,
yeah, that decision right there didn't go over too well. I remember.
Clearly, because you've been out of Charlotte for 43 years and you still remember that?
Yeah, the board chair was like, "Oh, hey, so you saying this is the last chocolate chip cookie we can have at a meeting?"
Yeah, I can see where that could be problematic.
Yeah, I also think one of the things I try to remind people is one of the other reasons, especially for my kids. I have twin daughters; they're 12 now, and they're very different, as you can imagine. Everybody's different. What I love about easy or hard is what's easy for you might not be easy for me.
Right.
And so you can frame and use the rule or rules in a way that makes sense to you. But what we can share across the board is understanding that a hard thing is hard. So where I might not be able to, my hard thing might not be anything like your hard thing.
Yeah.
I have my own hard stuff. And so I can support you in understanding when you're like, man, this is hard. Like, I know, I totally feel that. And so it allows that flexibility for the rule to be used as many and as much as you want, but yet there's still this ability to share accountability potentially if you have that type of relationship to be like, man, I'm going to try to do 7 extra hard things. Here are the things I'm doing. And you can really talk through it and get that support that you might need.
Yeah, you said a thing there, Blake. Like Keith and I always have these heated debates about a hard thing, right? And some things that may be intuitive to him or maybe kind of like, duh, it's not intuitive to other people. And then when we begin to kind of assess their effectiveness or their efficiency, or sometimes even their value in the organization based on the things that we think are hard, as opposed to the things that are actually hard for them, now you get into a bit of a rub and a disconnect, but not allowing people to be complacent, right? And still take the easy road. Because some people will do that. They are uncomfortable with discomfort. Like by any means necessary, they are not going to do the hard stuff. They're going to try to be as easy as possible at all times. But I love the fact that you said what's hard for one person may not be hard for the other, but we can all agree that we do hard stuff.
Well, and that's the other thing too, back to Keith's question about as a team leader or CEO, there's so often where you have these buzzwords, and we've all heard them, innovation and accountability.
Oh, yeah.
Well, what accountability means to the finance department and the aquatic staff is very different.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Where if you start to frame things as, look, we're just going to focus on, making the hard choice, in the path towards accountability. Well, now I know what that means. Even as a finance person, I can say, okay, all right, I need to, whatever that looks like, but it is going to be very different than whether it be your customer facing program people. So I always try to tell people to drill those buzzwords down. Not that they aren't important and aren't motivating, but really to be innovative, it requires a lot of hard decisions over and over and over.
Right.
And we forget about that part. We just focus on the innovation, and then we're frustrated when it doesn't happen the way we want. We need to take a step back and say, look, if we're not getting what we want, we have to make more hard decisions. That's just it.
That's what it is. The hard choice habits.
Yes. So tell folks where, how can they get your book, and how can they find you?
Yeah, man. So just Amazon, go on Amazon, type The Hard Choice Habits, or type my name, Blake Carleton, and you can order it on Amazon. It's in Kindle, it's print edition. And then I have a website, thehardchoicehabits.com. I love to talk to people and talk to teams. Really passionate about this, what I consider kind of a new way to look at decision making, and would love to help as many people as possible. So, hey, hit me up, and just excited and thankful for you two to let me be on today.
You're welcome, man. Let me tell you this.
That's the easy choice, people. That's not the hard choice. Just go get the book or go to the website. That's the easy
let me tell you this. I'm gonna let you. I'm gonna encourage you, because you have 12-year-old twins. I'm gonna tell you to read this book called The Hard Choice Habit, because they're about to become 13.
Woo!
And
if I could have put my child in a medically induced coma at 13 and then woke her up about 16, I would have done it. Not gonna lie. Would have done it. But everybody's hard choices are different. So
well, that might be different. I think we all might agree. 12-year-old girls is a hard choice regardless. That's guaranteed. That's universal.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Blake, for being here. Thank you for sharing amazing insight about creating a hard choice habit culture. And thank you all for listening to CAUSENETIC.
On this episode called Hard Choice Habit, featuring my man, Blake Carleton.
Subscribe and listen to us weekly.
Hey, and don't be shy. Give us a 5-star review.
And as always,
be dynamic,
be phenomenal,
and be CAUSENETIC.